I didn't think they were going to give me a technical at any point tonight. I would have been really sad for people in Washington, D.C. I didn't want to do that. I tried my best. And then Aaliyah is the one that ends up with a technical. That's the best part about it all. Like, she's the one babysitting me, and then somehow she ends up with a technical. And she didn't really do anything. She was just standing there, so that's what was funny to me. But now it's basically over. I don't have to worry about that anymore, but I don't want to be getting technicals at all, so. And my mom doesn't want that for me either, and I don't want to pay any more fines, so I'm done with that.
Caitlin Clark is walking a tightrope. 6 technical fouls. 1 more, and she's out for a game. Her teammates had to physically restrain her to keep her from getting that 7th tech. This is the story of how the WNBA's new superstar is battling not just opponents, but her own emotions. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Let's talk about Clark's start to the season. It's been crazy. She's leading the league in assists, dishing out 8.3 per game. That's insane. She's not just passing, she's scoring, she's rebounding. Clark is doing it all on the court. Fans are going wild for her. She's like a breath of fresh air for the WNBA. Every game, people are showing up just to see what Caitlin Clark will do next. But here's the twist. All that fire on the court, it's starting to burn her. 6 techs, 1 more, and she's suspended for a game. Imagine that. The Fever's star player sitting on the bench when they need her most. The team's playoff hopes could go up in smoke, but you won't believe what happened next. In the blink of an eye, everything changed. 1 whistle, 1 call. And suddenly, Caitlin Clark was teetering on the edge of disaster. What pushed her to the brink? It all went down during that intense game against the Dallas Wings. The pressure was through the roof. Every play mattered. Every decision could make or break the game. And for Caitlin, the stakes were even higher. Remember those 6 tech fouls? Well, she was 1 away from a suspension. 1 more outburst, 1 more show of frustration, and she'd be watching the next game from the bench. Talk about walking on eggshells. Then it happened. The ref's whistle pierced the air. Offensive foul on Clark. You could see the frustration building in her eyes.
I think like once we get there, it'll feel a little more real. And obviously, like, we're not just happy to be there. Like, we really feel like we can believe and we can compete with every single team that's going to be in the playoff. And that would have been another huge accomplishment for our group if we were able to beat them once. I think it has been since 2010. Since we've beat every single team in our league. So it's just another thing to work for next year. But I think, you know, you go into the Washington game, we still expect to win that too. And we know that Washington's going to be fighting for that last playoff spot too. So
her body tensed up. She turned towards the ref, ready to let loose. But her teammates, they were ready too. Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston, they didn't hesitate. They grabbed Clark, physically holding her back. Can you imagine your own teammates having to restrain you to keep you in the game? It was a moment that could have changed everything. 1 more tech, and Clark would have been out for a game, and not just any game, a crucial one that could make or break the Fever's playoff chances. We're talking about the difference between fighting for a championship and watching from home. The tension in that moment was unreal. You could almost feel the entire arena holding its breath. Would Clark keep it together, or would her fiery spirit get the best of her? Somehow, some way, Clark managed to keep her cool, but man, it was close. You could see the emotional toll it took on her. It's one thing to play against the other team, but fighting against your own emotions? That's a whole different ball game. After the game, Clark opened up about what was going through her head. She said, "It was just because I'm a competitor, and I felt like I should have been making more shots." That's the thing about Clark. Her biggest battle isn't always with the other team. Sometimes it's with herself.
I think I was just excited to play. Anytime you get the opportunity to get out there and go play, and knowing this, you know, this was our last regular season one at home. You know, it's fun. It's on the weekend. It's an afternoon game. Like, those are just better. Get over the hump of, like, really getting hot. Like, I know I was 6 for 14, and that's pretty good, but like, I still feel like there was a couple there that it's just like, how's that not go in? So I thought we were really good last time we played in Dallas. But we've honestly struggled to guard this team, and I think it just speaks to their offensive firepower that they have, like Arike and Sabali's really good, and then we obviously struggle to guard their post player.
You've seen Clark's incredible plays, but have you ever wondered what's really going on inside her head during those intense moments? What if I told you that her biggest challenge isn't on the court, but in her own mind? Let's talk about what's really bugging Caitlin Clark. You know she's got 6 technical fouls, right? But here's the kicker. Some of those techs, they weren't even about the game. Clark spilled the beans saying, "I got a technical for basically being mad at myself. Had nothing to do with my team. Had nothing to do with their reffing. Had nothing to do with the other team. Can you imagine that? Getting penalized for being your own worst critic? That's wild. But it gets crazier. Remember that time she slammed her hands on the basket support after missing a shot? Yeah, that cost her too. Clark explained, "It was just because I'm a competitor and I felt like I should have been making more shots." That's the thing about Clark. She's not just battling the other team, she's fighting against her own sky-high expectations. Every missed shot, every turnover, it's like a personal affront to her competitive spirit, and man, does that spirit burn bright. But here's where it gets tricky. All that fire, all that passion, it's a double-edged sword. On one side, it's what makes Clark such an incredible player. On the other, it's pushing her dangerously close to that 7th technical and a game suspension. Now, you might be thinking, why doesn't she just cool it? But it's not that simple. Clark's coach, Christy Sides, gets it. She said, "I don't need Caitlin to sit out a game. She's just a fiery competitor." I mean, I don't want to take that away from her. That's the million-dollar question right there. How do you keep that competitive fire burning without letting it consume you? It's like trying to harness lightning. Powerful, but man, is it unpredictable. And you know what's really wild? This whole situation is teaching Clark some tough lessons. It's not just about making shots or dishing out assists anymore. It's about managing emotions in high-pressure situations. It's about finding that sweet spot between passion and control. Think about it. Every time Clark steps on the court now, she's not just playing against the other team, she's playing against herself, against her own emotions. One wrong move, one outburst of frustration, and boom, she's out for a game. Talk about pressure. Hold up. While everyone's focused on Clark's technical foul drama, they're missing the real story. Behind the scenes, she's cooking up a comeback that could change everything. What's her secret weapon? Turns out, it's all about growth. Clark's not just sitting back and letting those texts pile up. She's taking this challenge head on, turning it into a chance to level up her game, both on and off the court. You know what's wild? Clark's actually using this whole experience to become a better leader. In practice, she's not just working on her shots. She's out there talking to her teammates, encouraging them, showing them the ropes. It's like she's channeling all that passion into something positive. Her coach, Christy Sides, is all about it. She's not trying to put out Clark's fire. Instead, she's helping her use it the right way. Sides said, "We can't let that affect us so much. The officials are the officials." It's like she's teaching Clark to focus on what she can control, not what she can't. And let me tell you, Clark's taking that lesson to heart. She opened up about it, saying, "I think I could have done a little bit better job keeping my emotions in check." That's huge. Recognizing where you need to improve, that's the first step to making it happen. But here's the thing. It's not just about Clark. The whole team's playoff hopes are riding on this. They need Clark at her best, not sitting on the bench because of a suspension. And Clark, she knows it. That's why she's working so hard to turn things around. You want to know the craziest part? All this drama might actually make Clark an even better player. Think about it. She's learning to keep her cool under pressure, to channel her emotions into her game instead of letting them control her. That's the kind of skill that separates good players from great ones. And check this out, Clark's not just leading in techs, she's leading the Fever in scoring with 17.8 points per game, dishing out 8.3 assists, and snagging 1.4 steals. Those are some serious numbers. It just shows how crucial she is to this team. So yeah, Clark's walking a tightrope, but she's not just trying not to fall, she's learning to dance on it. She's turning what could have been a disaster into a chance to grow, to become not just a better player, but a better leader. Let's talk about Caitlin Clark's wild ride this season. From superstar to near suspension, she's been through it all. But you know what's crazy? This whole tech foul drama might be the best thing that ever happened to her. Think about it. Clark's not just learning to keep her cool on the court. She's becoming a better leader, a smarter player. She's turning all that fire into something positive, and that's huge for her future in the WNBA. But it's not just about Clark. Young players watching her are learning too. They're seeing that it's okay to make mistakes, as long as you learn from them. Clark's showing them that resilience isn't just about bouncing back, it's about coming back stronger. This is the kind of story that makes sports so incredible. It's not just about winning games, it's about growing, adapting, and never giving up. Clark's journey? It's just getting started.